Hello and welcome to Don't Tell Me to Relax, the fertility podcast here to guide you through the roller coaster of trying to conceive. I'm Hannah, your host, a fertility acupuncturist with clinics in London and across the UK. Our patients tell us how frustrated they feel about their lack of fertility education. So this podcast aims to provide all that education they never taught you in school, with the aim of putting you back in control of your fertility journey. We also have our fertility community to help address isolation and provide further information and support. To join us, the link is in the show notes.
Hello, are you an acupuncturist with a keen interest in food? Join our Chinese Medicine Nutrition Diploma, an online course delivered 2 hours per week over 30 weeks, which starts this October. Enhance your clinical outcomes with contemporary nutrition perspectives and practical knowledge of East Asian food traditions. Learn from a team of experts covering topics from gut health to fertility, medicinal mushrooms to fermentation, food for cognitive health, and so much more. Check out the courses page on our website, thepractitionerhub.co.uk, for more.
Hello and welcome to our new series of Don't Tell Me to Relax. This is series 5 of the podcast, unbelievably, and I'm very happy to say that I am joined by my favourite partner in crime, Katie. Hello, Katie.
Hello, it's so nice to be back.
It feels like a very, very long time since we did our first series.
It was.
I don't know when we did it.
It was the start of last year.
Was it?
Yeah.
I feel like it was longer ago.
No,
I can't believe it.
We started talking about it. So we both did that coaching with Maisie Hill. And that was 2 years ago, roundabout now-ish.
Yeah.
You were talking about doing the podcast. And then you text me being like, do you want to do it with me in November? And then I think we might have recorded one in December, but it was definitely like the sort of start of last year.
Okay, and here we are, I think 64 episodes later, which is crazy. And obviously we've been award nominated and lost.
Oh, yes.
We featured on Stylist. We were the top 6 of fertility podcasts in that publication, which is actually hard to believe, but there we are.
It's amazing.
So we are doing a new series 5, and we are going back to basics, and we're talking about what we love the most. And actually, interestingly, what we get the most messages about, where people say, I listen to your messages about fertility awareness and the education side of things, and I found it really helpful. In fact, I got one this morning. So I feel like we can't talk about this stuff enough. And so we're starting right at the very beginning. And we're going to be talking about how to get pregnant, which sounds so simple and yet can be very complicated.
Not as straightforward as we are led to believe sometimes. So yeah, I think just start at the very beginning.
Yes. And I feel like to talk about it, we need to go back to like sex ed at school because, you know, let's face it, it was shite and we did not learn very much. And I feel like it sets us up for failure in many ways when you're ready to conceive, because people assume that they are going to stop contraception and get pregnant quickly because you were always told if you have unprotected sex, you will get pregnant. And that then leads to panic and concern when you don't immediately get pregnant in your 20s or 30s or however old you are, 40s. So I feel like it's good to kind of talk about that and how basically crap that is.
Because I'm like, I barely remember my sex education. I think that tells you a lot. I don't remember getting taught about periods at school. I remember them showing us how to put a condom on a banana or something, and then had various like barrier contraceptions, so like condoms, diaphragms and things, but then they'd like hole punched all of them so no one could steal them. And I was like, this feels really counterintuitive. Like you're teaching us how to not get pregnant, and then you've got examples of things to use to not get pregnant, but then you don't want people to take them because they're like your demonstrations,
your props.
Yeah, I was just like, this doesn't make any. I just remember at the time being like, this makes no sense. And so like, just me being gay, I was like, well, like this means nothing to me. How conversation as well. But
did they talk about same-sex relationships when you were at school?
I can't remember when Section 28 came out, like stopped being in effect, but definitely when I was younger, it was still a thing. So I literally couldn't talk about it, which is just like ridiculous. But no, definitely didn't talk about it. It was all very focused on straight heterosexual relationships and how to not get pregnant. That was what sex education was. It was not about menstrual cycles, like relationships, how to stay safe from. Well, they did talk about, the only thing I remember them talking about was HIV, but I don't remember them talking about any other like STIs or STDs particularly. Maybe chlamydia actually, but that was it. Yeah.
And I wonder, I mean, I don't know, it's a long time since I've been at school, but I wonder whether it's any different now in the, you know, I mean, I've got teenagers and I don't really hear anything that sounds hugely different to what happened when we went through school. So obviously I like to talk about it nonstop with my teenagers, which they are really, really thankful for. But I don't get the impression that it's come a long way is my experience. But obviously I also think it's very different in lots of different schools, because I don't think there's a national curriculum for sex ed. I think it's very much down to schools and individual teachers.
Yeah, that's the understanding that I have as well. And there's big conversations about what should or shouldn't be included now, isn't there, and things. So just that whole thing of like starting their period so much earlier now as well. So it's like you just need this education. Like give me bloody questions about Jim's got 3 apples and Susie's got 5 eggs, and then what does Simon have? Like that's not helpful. Like teach us about what our body's going to be doing, and to not like freak out about what's a period or like what's ovulation, like that whole conversation. And I think there's a long way to go.
Yes. And so I guess if you are somebody listening to this, what we're talking about today is all the stuff basically that you didn't get told in school, which is what you need to get pregnant, because it's not always as simple as having unprotected sex. And for, you know, lots of people, getting pregnant can take some time. And statistically, I've got a nice statistic here that says that after a year of trying, and when we say trying, it means sex every 2 to 3 days through a menstrual cycle. So that's quite a lot of sex. I mean, I'm 50, so that sounds like quite a lot of sex to me. But you know, maybe when I was younger, it would have sounded more appropriate. But you know, it's classed as every 2 to 3 days.
It is a lot.
It is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a lot.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad it's not just me. Every 2 to 3 days, every 2 to 3 days through a menstrual cycle, by the end of 12 cycles, so by the end of a year, 90% of couples will be pregnant. So actually, you know, the vast majority of people will conceive after a year of trying. And by the sounds of it, you know, we're talking quite a lot of trying. And I think it's good to have that in your mind, because if you've just started trying, or maybe you've been trying for 3 to 6 months, it's very easy to sort of get into the stress cycle of, why is it not happening? What do I need to do? Do I need to give up coffee? Do I need to stop alcohol? All of those things start becoming, you know, gremlins in your brain and causing stress in itself. So I think it's good to start with a good statistic of how long that it takes. And, you know, 90% of people after a year is a good statistic to hold on to. But it's also good to think about what we need for conception, because again, it's something that we're not really taught to, or, you know, no one's ever sort of gone through what we need. So I'm going to just quickly go through the basics, which is, you know, where we like to start. So we need sperm, and we need good quality sperm. And we have got millions of episodes on good quality sperm and what that looks like. So you can check those out. We need an egg. So we need an egg that is also good quality. And again, there's quite a few episodes on what we mean by egg quality and what you can do about egg quality. But we need good eggs, good sperm. We need an opportunity for them to meet. So we need cervical mucus for the to carry the sperm to the egg. We need the fallopian tubes to be open. So again, we need to, you know, think about, is there any damage or any obstruction in the fallopian tube that could be stopping the sperm and egg meeting? And obviously we need enough sex for there to be an opportunity for sperm and egg to meet, and we need it at the right time, because obviously we ovulate, and ovulation means that it's a very short window of when that egg can be fertilized. So we need those three things. So sperm, egg, opportunity to meet, and then when the embryo is formed, we need that embryo to implant into the uterus for the pregnancy to start. So we need good opportunities for implantation to happen. So there are quite a few steps to this getting pregnant malarkey, and they are good ones to think about. So, when we think about sperm and egg, we think about lifestyle, we think about all the things that we talk a lot about that can really help encourage healthy sperm and eggs. But I think the big thing that is often missed is that opportunity to meet. So, how much sex when you have your sex is the thing that I would say probably more than 50% of couples would say that they get wrong. They didn't know, they didn't have any idea, because obviously we were all told, as we said at the beginning, you just have unprotected sex and you get pregnant. And that is bullshit. So Katie, tell us about how do we know when we're fertile? I know it's a good one, isn't it? How do you know?
How do you know? So I really think it's really important to tune into what your body is like physically showing you. And like that big thing that we have talked about time and time again is cervical mucus. And it's just the biggest telltale sign that you are fertile. So again, thinking back to that like basic education of like people talking about discharge when you're younger, and it's like you get some kind of discharge throughout the whole cycle, but there is oh my god, it's a favourite subject. Now I've completely drawn a blank. When you're leading up to ovulation, there we go. You'll have known when you felt it. There's that like slippery, like you wipe when you go to the toilet and you're like, oh my god, is that a period? And you look down, there's like nothing there. There's just this like gooey egg white stuff on the tissue paper. And that is your body's way of going like, hey, like you are super fertile right now. When you see that, that is your opportunity to try. It helps to keep sperm alive inside of you for up to 5 days. It filters out poor quality sperm. So yes, you do want good quality sperm, of course, but it does have this incredible function of being able to get rid of the stuff that's not so great. And it's like your natural ovulation predictor kit. I know so many people pee on the strips and they get really stressed out and confused about what it means. And there can be a time and place for those, but I think for the vast majority of the people, paying attention to your mucus, and when you see that, that's the time to try. And when it stops and dries up, and when you're wiping across your vulva like later into the cycle and it doesn't have that like slip and slide feeling, then you're no longer fertile. So that is like one of the big visible signs, because I know sometimes people get ovulation pain and that can be to some degree a bit of an indicator, but often people can like it. If you're waiting for like 1 day of ovulation pain, it's the same as waiting for one positive ovulation predictor kit pee strip, where like you could be missing so many opportunities to try. And that's definitely one of the things that we see in both of our clinics, is that people are just missing these windows because they're waiting for like to be like, you're fertile, and it's like your body's telling you. So like really just tuning into the fact that your cervical mucus is like the biggest green light for you to like go and have sex, and that potentially to result in a pregnancy.
Yeah. And I mean, and then the other thing I guess to really think about in this kind of how to get pregnant is to know that it's a very short window, and that as soon as that egg is released, it survives for like 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah, it's not long.
So it's not long. And so I was thinking, I've just written down fertility maths. Is it maths? Like that thing that's like I keep seeing like reels about it, and I'm like, where does this come from? But
I like girl math.
Girl math. Yeah. Well, I don't know what it is. I'm so
like girl math is like, so say we went for dinner, and then you paid for both of us. I was like, Hannah, I owe you like 20 quid. And then girl math would be like, I pay you back the 20 quid. And you're like, oh, I'm like 20 quid richer. And it's like, not really. I just like paid you back.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. I see. I didn't realise that. So because I was gonna like do an example of like fertility math, but maybe it's the wrong way of doing it. But the maths behind the fertility situation is that sperm can stay alive in your cervical mucus for about 5 days.
Yeah.
Your egg survives for about 12 to 24 hours. So the maths of fertility means that you're probably fertile for approximately 3 days every single month, which is not a lot of time. And there's so many factors around that, but that's the kind of important thing to remember, that you having sex before you ovulate is the best way to conceive, because you need to have that sperm waiting for when that egg is released, as opposed to kind of like, you know, wait until you ovulate and then do it. It's like it's all about preloading. If that's not too inappropriate to say.
Yeah. Oh, that's really funny. Yeah, no, it's exactly what you want to be preload. You want it stocked up. You want it ready and waiting. It's like, we're good.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not sure that's a medical term, but let's use it in this situation.
Client notes earlier today they were saying about how they were feeling, and they're just like, I just feel a bit like blah, and I was like, oh yeah, the medical term blah, because like we all know what that means.
Yes. So 3 to 5 days really is what you're talking about. So therefore, being on it and knowing your cycle and knowing when you ovulate and making sure that you're having sex every other day through that window is kind of the best way to get pregnant. And that's it. And I know that sounds like really straightforward and simple, but they are the kind of basics that are really important to not let go of, because sometimes you can get like lost in tech or positioning or legs up the wall or supplements or live, you know, all this kind of stuff. And actually, you know, on a regular basis, making sure you're having enough sex through your ovulation window, and you know when your ovulation window is, and doing that on repeat for enough cycles is kind of like the fundamentals that everybody really should be told but often aren't told. And that for it to take time is not unusual, because even if you have sex at the right time with ovulation and everything's perfect, I think it's approximately like a 35% of conception happening.
I wanted to mention that. That like like you were sort of saying earlier about, like, it's very normal for it to take about a year to get pregnant, and I think like if you bring that down to like per menstrual cycle, there is something like a 35-ish% chance. Don't quote us on that, but to take comfort in that it's not 100% chance, and like you're not failing or doing things wrong necessarily if you don't get pregnant, because like the chances, like it's not 100%, it's not even 50-50. Like there's so many processes that happen inside your body beyond you having sex at the right time and everything being healthy that just might mean it doesn't happen this cycle, and like that's completely normal. And to remember that when it's a bit like it's not happened yet, that actually like this could be totally normal.
Yes. And the thing is, and I don't know whether we've spoken about this before, but the thing that I think happens is that those people who like look at each other and get pregnant immediately, you know, they often love to bloody tell everybody, don't they, about that. They love to go, oh, you know, we weren't even trying. I mean, the worst, but great for them. But, you know, if you're somebody who's trying to conceive and you're listening to that, then, you know, that it's really, really difficult, because it's obviously as soon as you start comparing that to your situation, it then puts you into that state of panic. And there is always a time and a place of which to go and get investigations. And of course, there might be underlying issues, but it's always good. I always think it's really good when people I work with in clinic, I'm like, have a plan. And that plan is a time frame of, okay, how long are you going to try for? Are you ticking all your basics? After that point, if you've given it enough time, then you move on to investigations and thinking about next steps. But, you know, while you're in that stage of sort of trying and, you know, doing everything that you can, you sort of have to shut out the noise of other people and those people who say they weren't even trying and they got pregnant, or they went on holiday and they got pregnant, because they are the people that talk about it because they haven't had any problem. Whereas there are lots of people who might be taking longer, but they maybe don't want to discuss it, maybe don't want to talk about it. So you can feel like everyone around you is like normal and and I say normal in that they conceive quickly, but actually all those people who aren't conceiving quickly are not talking about it, and therefore you're not aware that that's also normal.
I completely agree that it's a really sensitive subject, and understandably, but you'd be surprised how many people are like going through it. And I think which is like sad in a way that we don't, and I guess that's maybe where that education piece comes back to from like way earlier in life, that like we don't talk about these things and we still think it's kind of taboo, or like we're the weird people that talk about mucus and periods all the time, where actually it might help people to feel a lot less lonely and a lot more kind of knowing that actually to get pregnant can take time, and that's totally normal in a lot of cases. And if that kind of, and that's not to pressure anyone into feeling like they need to talk about it, but it's just interesting, isn't it, that starts from so early that we don't talk about it, and then that bleeds into later in life where it's like you feel like you're being able to be a human that can make another human. And because it is like a fundamental basic assumption. You know, when you think back to when you're doing your sex ed at school, it's kind of assumed, isn't it, that this is how it happens, and it happens, and it's really straightforward for everybody, and there's no discussion about anything other than that. You know, and that not getting pregnant is just the main focus, and there are so many things that aren't discussed, exactly as you said, like different types of relationships, different sexualities, miscarriage, time to pregnancy, all of these things. Wouldn't it be so much better if we talked about it more, so that we've normalized everybody's experience of it in a much better way than you know, a condom on a banana or looking at the frog cycle. Oh, why?
Because it's so weird as well, isn't it? Because it's such a huge part of human beings, and yet we just kind of don't like to talk about it,
like shy away from it. And
it's like eating. It's like, you know, it's the same thing. It's a biological function, and yet we just don't really discuss it very much.
It's funny, isn't it? And like the shame around it all, and like putting your tampon up your like uniform sleeve, and just that it's like hide it, don't show anyone it. And I think that then doesn't help us as we get older. In any sense, whether that's trying to conceive and then into like perimenopause, all of that, like the fact that it's like absolutely. Well, hopefully it is changing a bit, maybe. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe
it is changing, but it's just slow.
So thank you, Katie. Episode
Pleasure.
1 done and dusted. So if you would like more information about this, we are going to be running a course with basically going into fertility awareness, fertility education in more detail. So you can find all the details to sign up for that course. It's completely free at the end of the show notes. And we've got some great episodes coming up. We're doing ones on ovulation predictor kits, ones on hormones and what your hormones are actually doing. We're going to be doing one on thin endometrium linings and period issues. So we've got loads more educational episodes coming up on specific topics. So we'll be dropping one each week in the forthcoming weeks. So look out for those. And Katie, it's lovely to be back.
It's really nice to be back. I love doing this.
It's like the old days. Well, it's lovely to see you, and we will see you next time.
See you later.
We hope you have found this episode helpful. If you'd like to leave us a review, we would love you to bits. And if you'd like more support for your fertility, you can come and work with us in clinic. We're based in London and around the UK, or you can work with us online. For more information, see the link at the end of the show.